I was, as a kid, what I would say bullied. And I'm going to give you a little bit of the story so you can understand what went on, and then we will talk about how I have processed through some of that and what has become of it. Picture back to being probably like 10 years old, and I'm with my friend Adam, and we are riding bikes in the neighborhood, and some kids that lived near him asked if we wanted to play bike tag, which seemed like a great idea at the time. We would ride around our bikes, we would try and tag each other. Brilliant. What ended up happening, though, is somebody was chasing me, trying to tag me, and I ended up knocking into their front tire, twisting the handlebars on their bike, and as a result, they fell down. Needless to say, they were not too happy, and their response was that they wanted to fight me. Now, this guy was older than me, bigger than me, and I had never been in a fight, never really thought about being in a fight, and had no desire to fight anybody. And so me and my friend Adam quickly headed off to his house, and I was like, I'm done, I'm out of there. Fast forward into junior high, and this guy was there as well, and occasionally his friends would come up and ask me, hey, do you want to fight? And I really didn't want to, and I was like, no thanks. I ended up getting tripped in the hall occasionally. I ended up getting bumped, having my books knocked over. I had quite a bit of a fear, I guess, of, in some ways, getting beat up. Not that it ever happened, but the fear was there. And so eventually I transferred schools, and it really kind of wasn't a problem. I wasn't in my hometown much anymore, and I didn't run into that person, didn't run in the same circles in any way, kind of just lost track. But what did happen is I held on to that story, and I kept it. And I had different things that story ended up meaning to me, as many impactful moments will have in our lives. What I ended up doing was letting that experience turn into thoughts that just in general gave me fear. So what if I ran into these people as a teenager? What if I ran into them as a young guy in my 20s? What if I ran into them as an older guy in my 30s with my kids? Would this guy still want to get into a fight with me? Did he want to finish whatever business we had? I told myself that I was afraid of standing up for myself, that I was the kind of person that ran away. All these different things sat in my head for 20 plus years. What I really want to get at here, and want you to start to look at, is to recognize that everything has at a minimum two sides. I heard once some police talking about when they interview people, what it is that they look for. And if they ask somebody, say there's an accident, and they ask people who were in the accident in like the same car, what happened? If the people who describe that accident give an almost word for word story that matches up, they have a good chance that something happened that they are lying about. And the main reason is because when we experience something, we experience it through our own ideas, our own past experiences, our own vision, our own physical feelings, our own emotional feelings. And so simply by nature of all of those different inputs, the experience has to be different. And so if they have someone who talks about this same accident and there's enough variation in there that says like, okay, there's some similarity in here, but there's also some difference as far as what car hit who, when, some of those things, they know, okay, these people are probably telling the truth. And the reason that I say that is that this perspective is very much what helped me shift from allowing this past experience, allowing these thoughts to continue to bully me for 20 plus years, and to shift in and in some ways be able to bully those thoughts back. Now, I use that kind of tongue-in-cheek. I don't think bullying is in any way acceptable. Don't do it. I have done it in the past. I have worked to resolve that with those people. We do the best that we can with what we know. And so in this process and in this podcast, my encouragement to you is to look at those places where you have allowed an experience, you have allowed thoughts that have come to you, you have allowed words that have been said to you to hang on and become part of who you are, because they are not. And what I would love is that you would not in any way allow that experience, allow those words, allow those thoughts to hinder, stop, or in any way prevent you from moving forward, because that also is not acceptable in the same way that being bullied is. What I would encourage you to do is first, just recognize that all stories, all situations, they're all seen differently by each person. What we can do is take responsibility for how we have thought of a situation, for how we've thought of ourselves, and for how we've thought of that other person. Now, one of the things that I did that was really helpful is I just wrote stuff down. I wrote down, and I often will encourage people to write things down. I have this belief that because we live in this world and that things are very much energy-based, that to take a thought and to write it down on a piece of paper engages us in an act of creation. It's taking something that is kind of ethereal, a thought, and it turns it into something physical that we can touch and see and all those things. And so I think it's very powerful to write things down. I think that that's helpful, that it moves it out of our head and into the physical world. And so what I would encourage, and what was helpful for me, was coming from that perspective that maybe things were different for this guy, John. Maybe things, he had a different take on what happened. And what I did is I wrote, putting myself into a power position, trying to find a way, in essence, to apologize, right? And so the idea is that you can put yourself in a power position of what happened, look to offer some grace, and look to offer forgiveness. And ultimately, this process is really about finding freedom for you. And in the process, if you can offer the chance for them to find freedom too, if there is another person, then they have that chance to take it or not. And now I say, if you feel like it's something you want to do, to share what you wrote with this other person, to track them down, and that would be beneficial, go for it. It can also simply be for yourself. You can, keep it, you can share it with a friend, you could simply burn it or something, have a ceremony where you say, I'm just releasing this. There's lots of ways to do it. For me, I ended up finding this guy through the magic of Facebook, and I reached out to him. Now, of course, I checked out his profile and that sort of stuff beforehand, and turns out he turned out to be a pretty stand-up guy, which is awesome. He's a great dad. All kinds of stuff about his son and how he was encouraging his son and doing all kinds of stuff to help him just be a great kid overall. He actually runs a business which looks similar to what I do, and he also does what looked like some, I would say, motivational speaking, but kind of speaking around similar topics, looking at how it is that we interact with other people, how it is that we shift our thoughts into places to bring about good for people around us. And so I reached out to him, and I basically just apologized for running into him, and that I did acknowledge that I felt scared as a kid, that I felt unsure of what to do, but then I also apologized because I didn't know what was going on for him, and that if I did do something that impacted his life in a way that felt intentional, that I really was sorry, that it was, in all honesty, a big accident. And he followed back up, which was very cool. We chatted briefly. We are not Facebook friends. I don't think that necessarily needs to happen or not needs to happen, but what it did was that it really freed me up in the way that I think about things, to no longer have this potential what if hanging in my head of one, bad things that might happen in the future, but also that it allowed me to in some ways kind of rewrite the difficulty of that story that happened. I would encourage you to simply look at those places where there are stories of either bullies, where there are stories of things that were said to you, or where there are stories of things that you have said to yourself. And if they are not serving you, if they don't feel good, if they don't provide growth or move you in the direction that you want to be, take some time and simply address them. There are at least two sides to every story, and I want to see you take that story and turn it into something that truly serves you. So today, as you head out, May you see the stories that you have held on to that are keeping you from who you are meant to be. And may you today see a clear path to release and rewrite these stories into powerful, moving moments in your life. What happened in one moment does not need to happen repeatedly in your head. Know that you are deserving of a life of freedom, of power, and goodness. You deserve to live free. Be blessed, friends.